Take the exit. Turn right into the drive-thru.
Nope, I'm making dinner tonight.
You don't have time. Josh has practice.
Oh, that's right. I'll just get a salad.
And fries?
No, just the salad.
But salad cancels fries.
Salad only.
Fries.
Salad.
Fries.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on the road to successful weight loss.
Hey, can I get the...
Fries.
Salad. Sorry.
Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
What's going on, everybody? It's Chuck, and you're listening to the ITXP. And it's May. May the 4th be with you. So last episode, I actually asked you a question. If your leadership framework assumes a fully human workforce, and you're about to add a non-human one to that scales, whatever culture you have, what parts of how you lead today are quietly broken, and you haven't seen it yet. I told you I wasn't going to answer this. Well, I lied. Not on purpose. But I found my answer a few months ago on a Tuesday afternoon, and it cost me, well, it cost most of my team most of the day. Right. So, look, this is techleadshift.com. It's where my new leadership series is being written. Or written, I should say. It's about a 10 series, I would say essay, articles, whatever you want to call them. But the last episode was really framing the leadership cycle around how we're heavy focus humans in terms of the framework and not really thinking about how we incorporate AI or these AI agents into the mix. And I'm calling them digital workers. That's what I think most of the HR folks are calling them now. So when we talk about digital workers and how they incorporate themselves into our infrastructure, into our daily routine, into our business processes, who's monitoring those? Who's managing those quote unquote agents or digital workers? And that's the biggest problem that I'm facing right now as we're going through this transformation. And yes, it's another digital transformation in the enterprise. I don't think any enterprise is ever going to stop going through a digital transformation. And that's what I started Tech Lead Shift. Because I feel like nobody's talking about it. At this level, at least, from a practitioner standpoint. So I've been in this industry almost 30 years. Oh my God, kill me. 30 years. Holy cow. I'm not even 50 yet. I've been doing this 30 years. Just insane. But I started thinking, with everything's going on, everybody's talking about AI, or Sabrina Romanoff is doing all this AI stuff, how you can make money with AI, and scaling, 5xing, 25xing, whatever. You're doing all this stuff with AI, which is really automation. We've been doing automation for years, for decades. The AI is coming in and making things a little bit more faster, because instead of Chuck writing a script for you, I'm saying, hey Claude, write the script, this is what I wanted to do, and like, well, Claude, you missed it a little bit, let me kind of tweak it here and there. Or you go, no, Claude, you really need to focus on this. Well, let me go to ChatGPT and say, hey, fix this. Or go to Grok, hey, fix this. So I'm not focusing my entire brain power on writing the script, because there's certain things I forget and certain functions that I was like, I've never been really good at writing code, but I know how to tell people how to write code. And that's what AI is doing for us. So I think from the last article, we talked about where things were in terms of scaling out broken processes. And now we're going to focus up on the story around how I delegated kind of these problems to AI, right? And I was like, well, let me go to the article because I forgot what I wrote. To be honest with you, because I'm working on Article 5 at this point, so I'm backtracking to everything I did, right? So I talk about how I've been delegating for most of my career. I would say 30 years, maybe the first 15 years, I wasn't delegating. I was doing most of the work. year 15, I started getting a leadership job position and delegating from there. Even there in the beginning, it was tough to delegate because you know what you want to do, and you're like, oh, this guy can't do it well, so let me just do it. And that's a weakness from a leadership perspective because leaders are supposed to delegate. That's their job. Find the resources to be able to do the job that you were supposed to do, or you used to do, I should say, and delegate that to someone on your team so that way that person can grow and things like that. Ultimately, my goal has always been, you want to have the job that I have, and then I skill up, I move up the ladder, I move sideways, wherever, right? So delegation has been a big thing for me over the last 15 years. And I thought I was pretty good at it, right? I was clear about the outcome, not just a task, and I let the person figure out how to do it. I follow up without micromanaging and make sure things don't go sideways. That process worked, right? Because I'm talking to a human. The human will come back and say, well, I have a question, or I'm doing something that maybe is not right, or did you really want to do it this way, right? There's a back and forth with the human that we've been dealing with for decades at this point. Not just technology, right? There's also business processes in where somebody says, hey, I want you to run this sales funnel, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. And, the sales manager would go to sales lead and sales lead, blah, 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 blah. So it's not just technology, right? It's business processes as well. And it worked because there was that back and forth. Then I started delegating to agents, right? I created I didn't create reconciliation. Someone on my team created the reconciliation process, a junior member on my team, and I told her, I was like, this is what I want, this is what we need to do. And she did it. We talked about it. We told the agent what to do, and it was essentially pulling data from 3 different systems, analyze it, and build a reconciliation process to identify what was missing from our primary source. Plain and simple, right? It's just kind of like boom, 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 boom. It should have been straightforward. And the agent did exactly what we asked. It pulled the data, it performed the analysis, and it returned the missing records. Just the missing records. Nothing about those records existed in any other systems. Nothing about why the inconsistency existed. Just a list of gaps with no map to explain them. So we spent the next several hours investigating what the agent had already touched, trying to reconstruct the concept of the output didn't include. The task was completed, the work wasn't done. And I don't blame the agent. I don't. I blame my instructions. And I sat with something uncomfortable, right? And I talked about this before. Like, a human would have asked before they got halfway through the work. Someone on my team would have looked up from the screen and said, hey, do you want me to just flag the gaps or trace where this data actually lives? And I would have said to trace it. It would have saved the better part of the day. And that's where I kind of fit in as a leader, and where I should have been a lot more clear in my instructions. And this is where you run into some situations with agents, and where you think you're giving it good instructions, but you're really not. Because in your head, you're like, oh, I just want to do A, B, C, D, and I should get E output. And it did. But the value of that E output really wasn't valuable to us, right? It wasn't. So the system works. I watched it work, but the delegation was my fault, because I'm so used to working with humans that when I delegate things, the humans are supposed to ask me questions. The AI is not. The AI is like, no problem, Chuck, I'll do it. Here you go. Done. Next. Right? Next. So it pulled everything up, and I'm like, yeah, this is useless. So we're learning as we're going on how to better provide instruction to the agent, right? Because our original instructions was done. The task was completed. The work wasn't. We still had to do some work. It was a couple of hours to figure out what the hell's going to backtrack essentially on what we were doing. And it's frustrating because you're like, I told the agent what to do. I told it. And it did it. It did it. It gave me E output from A, B, C, D. But it wasn't of value to me because I didn't ask additional questions, or I didn't specify within my instructions of what the value of output E is going to mean to us. And that was a huge lesson. This was a few months ago, right? Last year, actually. And that was a huge lesson that we all learned coming into this. Because again, we're so used to working with these humans that the humans will ask questions. They'll bounce ideas back and forth with you. And unless you instruct the model to say, hey, validate this before you actually do it, ask any questions. We're not doing that. We weren't doing that, I should say that. Prior to this, we weren't doing that. We're just saying, hey, do this. And now, after this example, we started asking the model to ensure that it understood what it was doing, to output what the value was that we were asking it to do. Right? So again, here's the safety net, right? The human would have asked. The human wouldn't have just delivered the output, right? It would have gotten halfway through and said, hey, do you want me to trace back where this data lives, not just give you the output? The agent didn't ask because I told it just to give me the output, right? And again, that's on me. It's on me. It's not on the agent. It's in my failure to provide the right instructions to the agent. And again, I have to go back to this. We're so used to working with humans. And a lot of times, for those of us in leadership positions or management positions, a lot of times we think a lot faster than well, most of us, I should say, think a lot faster than our mouths work. So when you have a high-performing team, sometimes they just click, right? I'll tell someone something, and they're like, yeah, I got you. I understand what you mean. Or, I got you. This is what you want, right? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. You know exactly what I want. The agent's not going to do that. The agent's going to be like, okay, thanks, I'll do it. So I need to start clarifying every single instruction, right? Because every management framework assumes that there's a clarifying loop. But there's no clarifying loop in a model. There isn't. Right? So we as leaders never think about it consciously because it just happens naturally, right? I click with my team members. Like, I need this. Got you, Chuck. We've been working together for so long. I understand what you want. Let me take care of it. And I do the same thing with my leadership team. Somebody comes up to me and says, hey, Chuck, I need X, Y, and Z. No problem, I got you. Or, Chuck, I need X, Y, and Z. Do you want it in this format or this format? Do you want these values or these values? Because we've been working for so long together, I understand that. And even if we don't work together for so long, I'll ask clarifying questions. Just ensure that I understand what they want. Right? So when you remove the human from the loop, what's left is instruction quality. And that's the biggest challenge, right? The quality of the instruction, right? So when I'm writing the instructions for the agents now, I slow down in a way I don't slow down for people. I re-examine the ask. I think about the assumptions that I'm carrying that the agent won't share. So I front load the context that the human would have already asked for in the first place. So then I've started adding clarifying prompts directly into the instructions. Right? Explicit permissions for the agent to flag ambiguity before proceeding. And this is what I learned after that first reconciliation effort. And that's the key. You need to be adaptable when you're instructing these agents to do things, or digital workers to do things. right? The delegation portion is the biggest change when you're working with digital workers. It's that drift. It's that delegation drift. And that's why I call it a delegation drift. Right? It's a slow slide between what you intended and what the agent interpreted. Well, think about that. It's that slow slide between what you intended and what the agent interpreted. With a human, again, I know about their misunderstandings. There's always a pause. There's always, hey, Chuck, I was working on this thing, something just doesn't sit right with me. It'll be, we're in the office, somebody stops me in the hall, comes over my desk, virtually there's Teams, or we're in a meeting, or in a status meeting or something like that, somebody will bring it up. Somebody else is always going to ask, hey, did you really mean this or did you really mean that? At least they hope they do. Some of the junior folks don't. They're learning. But even as part of that learning process, oh, you're right. I didn't explain it clearly. And I've done that with my junior engineer. I only have one junior engineer, but I've done it with her. And she's like, well, what do you mean by that? I'm like, oh, you're right. So let me clarify that some more. But see, in the human, there's that loop. Chuck, clarify this. Or did you mean this? Or let me play that back to you. This is what I heard from you. And that's the biggest thing, right? So assigning that clarifying loop. Because when you don't have that loop, you have poor instruction quality, and this is where you're going to get that delegation drift. Think about it. Really, really think about it. Go through how you, as a leader or a manager or a lead, a tech lead or business lead, a team lead, whatever, right? Think about how you provide instructions to somebody. And will those instructions fly with a digital worker? Because again, there's no signal with the digital worker. They're going to do the work that you ask. Look, I use Claude, I use ChatGPT, I use Grok, I use Okara, which is the open source LLMs. I think I'm using Kimi 3.2 now and Seedance, the latest Seedance that's available on Okara. And I bounce back and forth between the four of them because it helps me ensure that I'm providing those instruction sets clearly. Because there can't be any misunderstanding. There can't. With humans, again, I talked about it. I've been reading human behavior for the past 15 years as a leader and manager. And even with my senior leadership, we have that connection. I have that understanding. I've known some of these folks for 5 years or more. And I was like, I understand what you need. Let me just clarify it. Boom. The agent's not going to do that. There's no signal with the agent. And this isn't a technology problem. It's a visibility problem. It's the same visibility problem from last episode, wearing different clothes. You can't read the room when there's no one in it. You just can't. We don't have stand-ups with agents. And that's the problem. We continue to follow these leadership frameworks, assuming that the digital worker is going to ask questions, and they're not. And I'm sure there's the same problem that manufacturing companies had in the early adoption of robotics. I'm sure of it. And I don't know why we haven't learned from those processes. I just feel like everybody's in this AI hype and they're like, oh, this is the best thing, this sliced bread. It can do X, Y, and Z. But they're not thinking about the processes. They're not. So now what we have to do is we have to slow down. We have to slow down some more. We have to pay attention. We have to think about when we're writing instructions for these digital workers that we re-examine the ask. We think about the assumptions that I'm carrying into the digital worker. Add the clarifying prompts. Ensure the digital worker understands and flags ambiguity before moving forward. And look, nobody told me that. Like, nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about that. All they're talking about is like, you can use Claude, you can use Cowork, you can use blah, 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 this and that to do. But nobody's actually telling you, sit down, think about what you're writing, and what they're saying is, oh, you're just going to get better at prompt engineering. But nobody's telling you, sit down and think about the business process and every step of the way, what are the assumptions? And after that reconciliation process, when we started doing the AWS automation, we sat down and we broke down every single process. I think I said this last week, right? Oh, why is this manual? Oh, well, Bob does that. Well, why does Bob do that? Well, Bob's the only one that knows how to do that. Why is Bob the only one that knows, right? So I continue pushing, and as leaders, that's what we need to do going forward. Again, it's not a technology problem. It's not a technology problem. This is a process problem. If you don't understand that process, you're not going to be able to tell the agent how to run it and how to make decisions based on that process. Because again, the AI agent or digital worker is not automation. It's taking your process that should have already been automated and making decisions based on that automation. Whether it's going to send it to another digital worker or it's going to send it to another system. So when you start adding clarification prompts into your instruction sets, ensuring that it flags ambiguity before it moves forward, these are the things that you learn as you go. And I'm hoping that as you're listening to this, whether it's in 2026 or beyond, that you've realized that, oh, yeah, I got to do that. And the sad part about this is I'm truly inconsistent with this. Because I'll get in the zone, I'll start writing instruction sets for a process I want to have a digital worker perform, and then I forgot to add that clarifying loop or ambiguity process. Right? So what I've been doing is the 70-30 principle, right? 30% that's entirely human is instruction quality at the moment of assignment. If that 30% is inconsistent, the whole pipeline drifts. And that's a problem. It really is a problem. Again, nobody told me to do this. I started doing it because of that reconciliation output and the few hours that it took us after the fact to really deal with it. And I want you to start thinking more and more as you go through these prompts, the instruction sets. There are a lot of configurations that you can do, these skills within Claude that you can build. And you should be building skills within Claude. Because as you build these skills, it'll help with your process. And there should be an ambiguity skill. There should be a clarifying question skill that you have. And every skill is going to be different. Every ambiguity skill is going to be different. Every clarification skill is going to be different. I just say, make sure you create one so that way it's already embedded in the work that you're doing, whether it's in Claude, whether it's in Grok, whether it's in ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever. Make sure you have these skills already embedded in your model so that way you don't forget. So I told you I did that inconsistently, but once I started building skills around that, it's already part of my prompt. Because as soon as I send an instruction set to the model, it'll load that skill. And say, hey, what do you mean here? This is so ambiguous. What do you mean here? What do you mean here? What do you mean? So I really have a truly digital worker. It's like, that's right. I forgot to add that. Oh, yep. I forgot that. This is where actually it's going to output to, or, yep, you're right. I forgot to add some values in here that will be meaningful to me. This is the format I wanted in. So those are the things that you can build into your model, into your skill set, to be able to ensure that you don't forget, right? You don't have that inconsistent pattern when you're providing these instructions to your digital workers. Right? So that's 70-30 principle, right? That 30% that's entirely human, right, is inconsistent, you're going to have a whole pipeline drift. So, delegation drift is not a sudden failure. All right? It's a slow slide between what you intended and what the agent interpreted across dozens of small assignments, accumulating quietly until something surfaces that costs more to fix than it should have. And the key word here is accumulating. Because individual tasks are going to look fine. It's just that the drift compounds across assignments until one output makes it visible. And one thing that we talked about on my team is that when we're building out this automation, this zero-touch platform, the team originally wanted to do one agent to rule them all. I'm like, you're going to have a problem doing that. Because if I ask Bob to do 30 different things to have one output, Bob's going to mess up along the way. This is why I have a bigger team. Because we were running into those challenges when the team was smaller. Like, all right, Bob, you do this. All right, Chuck, you do this. Dave, you do this. All right. And then we had 2 junior people, let's say, as an example. The 3 of us were knocking things out, but when it went to the junior folks, they're like, what the hell is going on? Right, so it's not only just thinking about, well, I'm going to give everything to this one digital worker. It's also about ensuring that we delegate the tasks across different digital workers. Because what's going to happen is the same thing, delegation drift, right? So if you give it to one person or one digital worker, that broken process may be 30 steps down the line. And if it breaks 30 steps down the line, that everything before that, steps 1 to 29, have to be redone. So delegation drift just doesn't mean that you're not providing proper instructions, but it also means ensuring that you delegate the work efficiently across different digital workers. Right? So think about this as like configuration drift as well, right? Nobody sets out to have inconsistent infrastructure. It just happens when one undocumented a change at a time until something breaks and you spend a weekend tracing it back. How many times have we done that? We're like, oh, why the hell is this thing not working? And you're like, oh yeah, Bob made this change 2 weeks ago. I was like, what? Why didn't he document that change? Why? like how many severity ones have you been on and where somebody's like, yeah, no change was made. No change was made. No change was made. Well, why was there no change? How do we know there's no change? Well, there's no change management request for it. And then we realize that somebody did something without putting a change request in there because it was only supposed to monitor something. It wasn't supposed to take action. And here we are on a severity 1 call. That one little thing that wasn't supposed to do what it's doing is actually doing it. It's blocking all outbound traffic because somebody decided that it wasn't important enough to require a change. Because the vendor said it wasn't going to do it. So same thing. Same thing. You're doing the same thing, but from a process perspective. So configuration drift gets addressed with infrastructure as code, hopefully. Version control, automated compliance checks. Delegated drift gets addressed with instruction discipline. Same problem, different layer. And that's why I talked about using the skills. Just like infrastructure as code or version control or compliance checks, you can create skills to add that clarification loop, ambiguity check. You could do that. Nobody's doing it, but you can do it. You should be doing it. Because you're going to continue to forget to add those into your instruction sets for every other thing that you're doing. Whether it's in Claude Code, Codex, or whatever. You're going to forget. So build those skills. Embed them into your client. And you'll be thankful that you've done it, because as you get more and more accustomed to doing that, you'll realize, oh, this saved me so much time later on. And this goes into leadership skills for the future. And this is something that the reason why I started Tech Lead Shift. To talk about what future leaders are going to need, what future leaders are going to mean. Those folks that were good with people may not be good with agents or digital workers. Because the instruction quality is a new leadership skill. Instruction quality is the new leadership skill. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that. Those guys that are really detail oriented and the documentation and things like that, those are going to be the new leaders in this digital worker space. Right? They're the ones that are going to define the outcome and the scope explicitly. Not because you trust the agent. That's not why they do it. Right? Because trust without clarity produces a list of missing records and a confused team. They're going to build ambiguity flags into the instruction set by default. Not just on the task where they've been burned before. Every task, they're going to make it structural. They're going to create review points before the output is final, not after. Checkpoints mid-task, where the agent surfaces his interpretation before it runs into completion. Document everything they learn from misalignment. Not as a post-mortem. Those are done. It's as an input to the next instruction. Your instruction library is going to be a living document. And look, none of this is technically complicated. It's all intentional in the way that human delegation never had to be. And I pause a lot because I want you to think about what I've just said. Let it really sit with you. Because I'm giving you the framework from my observations over the past, 26? 3 years now. Working with AI. Working with teams that are deploying agents, that are building agents into our go-to-market products. I'm seeing this. I'm seeing it not just within my own team. Obviously, I have more insight into my own team, but I'm seeing it at a larger scale from other teams, seeing how they work. And we've all gone through this. We talk internally with different team members. Oh, yeah, blah, 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 this and that. This is where the skills come in handy. And this is groundbreaking. Look, this is, again, I don't think people are talking about this much as it should be. These leadership frameworks need to change. I'm seeing now people talking about the future leader is going to be one that's a system design thinker. Yeah. But why is that? Because leadership was always a people skill. In this age of the digital worker, you have no people to manage for the most part. You're managing a system. You're managing these digital workers. So you don't have to be a people person. You just got to understand business processes and how to instruct the digital worker to do what we needed to do, to break down that business process into a way that the digital worker can understand. And put in those gates. Put in those ambiguity flags. That's the skill that things are the people are gonna need for the future, and the future is like 6 to 12 months away. And I don't think anybody understands this, and this is why I'm talking about it. This is why I built techleadshift.com to publish these articles. Maybe I'm late to the game, or maybe somebody's stealing my idea, but I really don't care because I want that conversation to start now. The leadership frameworks that we have today are not going to sustain us in the future. I'm hoping to be one of those pioneers in this space because I have that mix of the people ability and the system designs ability. But we need to start having that conversation now. Right? It's the thing that challenges me here is, right, I have really smart people on my team. And explaining this to them is challenging because they're so in their head around what a digital worker is versus what it's not. My team's already using agents. They're writing instructions. Some of those instructions are solid. We just had a meeting today about some of the agents that they're building. Most of them aren't. Because there's no signal when the drift is happening. I don't have visibility into which is which until something happens. That's a problem. How do I surface that? Right? That's not a leadership gap. That's a leadership gap, not a technology gap. Sorry. Right? The manager's job now includes teaching instruction discipline the same way I once included teaching how to write a proper ticket or run a postmortem. That's my job now. And I think one of the challenges that we face is systems engineers. I'm focusing on systems engineers because that's my industry. I don't think they're ready for that yet. I honestly don't. Some of them are. But how do you teach this to a junior engineer who's learning? Right? So as a leader, are you teaching your team how to delegate to agents, or are you assuming they'll figure it out the same way I figured it out? Are you thinking that they're delegating just like they do the humans? Actually, my people aren't delegating yet. I don't know why, but they're still not delegating. So here, think about this. Think about the last time you delegated to an automated process or an AI tool. Did you write that instruction the same way you would have explained that task to a person? Or did you slow down, front load the context, and anticipate the question it couldn't ask? If there's a difference in how you approach it, the difference is your new leadership practice. The question is whether you're applying it consistently or only when you remember. So the next episode, I'm going to tell you about what happens when it's not the delegation that fails. It's the culture underneath. And this is going to be big. This is going to be a big episode. Hopefully it'll be less than an hour, but I have a lot to say about this. All right. AI agents don't just do work. They inherit whatever culture already exists in your organization and scale it at machine speed. If you think your culture is pretty solid, you might want to hear what I walked into when one of my engineers went out sick. So thanks for listening. This is Chuck. This is the ITXP. Check out techleadshift.com. Check out the ITXP.com. And I'll talk to you next time.
Tired of bolted-on security with endless patches? Wish your software and systems operated with built-in security? At the Center for Internet Security, we get it. That's why we partnered with SafeCode to develop a Secure by Design guide that offers actionable guidance to help organizations integrate security throughout development. It's a clear roadmap for turning intent into execution, strengthening resilience while lowering complexity and cost. Operationalize Secure by Design in your organization. Visit CISecurity.org.